people that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
Quotes coming out about Embiid, oh, he's a warrior. You'll never get him off the court. You're just telling me he's an injury. He's one slip and fall away from what's not seeing him anymore in this series.
I would have sat him because there was only 1 day between the two games. It's 2 days between games 2 and games 3, and it's 2 days between games 3 and game 4.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Game Time had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I admit, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on...
Welcome to hour number 2, live right here on this Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. I had to be back by today, and I wanted to be back by today. Why? It's the opening night in the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft in the Motor City to Detroit. The NFL focus goes on this Thursday. 32 picks in this opening round, in a round that right now, Donnie, is going to be one that is very up in the air. So much to be determined. We'll try to iron it out here in this second hour for what you can hope to expect tonight in Detroit, and then some NBA playoff reaction and forecasting with our coach, James Young, JY, later in this second hour as well.
Look, we've always had fun looking at the draft and the odds all the way through from the end of the season where it was apparent who's probably going to be those top 5 picks, which quarterbacks are going here and there, and also at the FanDuel Sportsbook, more wagers are being added on a day-to-day basis, which is a lot of fun to look at, but also you are going to get some wild line swings this afternoon and to right up to the draft as things start to leak out as who might be going where. Get those numbers in. Make sure you fire accordingly. But it's our job at obviously the network here to get you prepped and ready for that. And the boys will be in studio live tonight going over it pick by pick with some of those best options and best bets to get after it. So it's a fun night. And by the way, it's like a Powerball night. Millionaires are made tonight, man. Crazy stuff.
Millionaires are made tonight. Futures of franchises are forever changed, hopefully in an optimistic way for your favorite NFL team. But oftentimes it could be a little bit of a negative, pessimistic view. And to Donnie's point, tonight is our 2024 NFL Draft Special live on SportsGrid, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, runs through the entirety of the opening round. All 32 first-round selections we will detail for you. It's myself, Joe Lisi on one desk. We got Mike Blewett anchoring a desk with Adam Kaplan for his insider perspective into the 2024 NFL Draft. Our lead NFL analyst, Warren Sharp, will be live in studio breaking down what that selection means for that individual NFL franchise and why they made the call. And Kevin Walsh will be monitoring everything from the odds perspective, our best bets, where that market has moved. And to Donnie's final point, and it's a great point, It's a very funny thing for me following the NFL draft because towards the end of a college football season, the end of an NFL season, you start to see the picture. Who's going to be that first overall pick? Which quarterback is it going to be? And then as we get going through the draft cycle, when the NFL season comes to a close and our next event is the Combine in late February, early March, and the markets start to come out, the odds are listed. And they don't really move all that much very early on. And we've got multiple months to figure everything out. And we've got a ton of sample size into actual football games and on-field tape that should be the biggest part of an evaluation tool. But then we have the workouts in the Combine, in the interviews with respective NFL organizations. And then for whatever reason, Donnie, in these 48 hours leading up until the first pick is made tonight by the Chicago Bears, so much changes. It's almost like we forget what we have known for 2+ months, and the only thing that matters is the past 24 hours, where so much still is in store to change on this draft day, a Thursday in the Motor City.
Yes, and also there's a lot of intrigue. It used to be in the past. Let's just go back before the slotted era here in round number 1, which means when you're drafted, this is what you're going to make. And it was great that the NFL actually put that in and no longer the, hey, you're going to make $100 million guarantee being the first overall pick, whether or not you play it down. Right. The NFL changed that structure. It's like, let's pay more attention to our veteran guys that are in the league and established and get them the money. Now, granted, picks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, they're still going to make a ton here. But the reason I bring this up is we didn't have any intrigue, Ben. We would find out days in advance who the number 1 pick was going to be, the number 2 pick, the number 3, the number 4, because their agents were coming to agreements. Because in the NFL, it was almost like, yeah, we want you number 1, but if you're going to ask for $150 million guaranteed, we're just not going to pick you number 1 and maybe trade that pick or not pick you at all. That's no longer the case right now. It's great for the NFL, but also the added intrigue. We've been staring at this draft order, particularly in the top 10, for months at this point right now. And it's like, hey, look at that. Who the Patriots going to take at 3, the Cardinals at 4, the Chargers at 5. Trades will happen tonight, and a lot of trades are going to take place in round number 1. So that 1 through 10 that you see right now, that's not going to be the 1 through 10 when it's all said and done after those 10 picks are finished a little bit later on this evening. So the intrigue of the NFL draft, so much better than what it should be just about a decade or a decade and a half ago before we actually had these slotted numbers.
And that's the great thing, because we have seen so many reports. Why those reports don't come out in March or even in early April, but in the last 48 hours is always going to be something that makes me chuckle. Is it a smokescreen? Is it a manipulative play? Or is it the truth in an actual move an NFL organization is going to make? So let's go through the top 10. The Chicago Bears are currently on the clock, but we know who they are going to take. Caleb Williams, get ready to learn the Windy City. He is headed to Chicago. There has been some conversation about number 2, but the Commanders select 2nd. The Patriots currently select 3rd. The Cardinals at 4, the Chargers at 5. The Patriots are reportedly welcoming in some calls and conversations about that 3rd overall selection. Same for Arizona at number 4. The Chargers could be moving out of 5 as well. The Giants pick 6th. The Titans at 7th. The Atlanta Falcons at number 8. The Bears have their own pick in the top 10. That number 1 pick, of course, courtesy of the trade a year ago with the Carolina Panthers. The Bears have their 2nd top 10 pick at 9th overall, and the Jets round out the top 10. To Donnie's point, you could see a trade happen as early as 3, in my estimation, tonight. And if the Patriots are moving out, what does that mean for the rest of the top 10? What does that mean for the rest of the first round? What does that mean for the seismic shift it could potentially have on the National Football League for years to come?
But yeah, and I like your point here too, because you should be picking up the phone even if you are the Chicago Bears. Not that it's stupid, it's Caleb, he's the best. Well, if somebody offers you 4 first-rounders and 4 second-rounders, then you might have to reevaluate the process here. But obviously, that's not going to take place. But let me get this out of the way. You take a look at the Patriots here, right? And you're trying to line things up and say, all right, the Patriots pick up the phone for what? If the trade market is they only go from 3 down to number 4, I get that. Because then you get a guarantee from, okay, the Cardinals want their wide receiver, but we're still going to get our quarterback. If the Patriots trade down and don't get one of these top quarterbacks, Robert Kraft, fire everybody all together again and restart the franchise over here. Yep. I understand why you have to say you're taking calls, but if the Patriots do not get a quarterback in the top 4 or 5, which means they only traded down a spot or 2, I have no idea, Ben, what they're actually doing, Ben.
Completely agree, Donnie, because at his introductory press conference, Jerod Mayo, who is the new head coach, of course, in New England, said in so many words, we are going to draft the most significant player on a football field. He didn't name quarterback. He didn't name a prospect they were targeting, but they're going QB. For the head coach to say that, listen, things can change in a month and a half, 2 months, but I still believe the Patriots hold on to that third overall pick and do take a QB. We'll show you the odds in just a second. Now 11 through 20. The Minnesota Vikings are expected to be a mover tonight, but they currently hold the 11th overall selection. The Broncos and Raiders, AFC West teams looking for a quarterback of the future. The Saints at 14, the Colts at 15. The Seahawks round out the top half of the first round at 16th overall. Then the Jags, Bengals, Rams, and Steelers round out the top 20. Now, let's have the quarterback conversation. As we said, Caleb Williams is going to go first overall. There are no guarantees in the world of odds. There is no guarantees in the world of the National Football League draft. But minus 30,000 is about as close as you will get, which is what Caleb Williams is to be that first overall pick. We'll continue to go through these odds in the quarterbacks in our next segment. But tonight, Donnie, in Detroit is really a coronation of Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears.
Yes, and we do expect 4 quarterbacks to go, probably in the top 5 to 6 picks here. The question's going to be also the added intrigue is who might trade back up into the first round to get those final 2 quarterbacks, and do we get 6 total quarterbacks in round number 1? It's going to be a lot of good stuff tonight in the draft, no doubt about it. And intrigue all the way through, that's what keeps the viewers involved. Good stuff here.
We have never seen 6 quarterbacks in the modern era of the NFL draft go in the first round. We'll talk about the QBs up next.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. That's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
He just tossed an air ball, like in a critical. You're up by 2 with 20 seconds left. He said, give me the ball, I'm LeBron James, and he tossed an air ball. And there was AD under the bucket fighting everybody, and he ends up going to the free throw line. They use Tavares as a friggin' pinata tonight. Dude, I know you're old, but get it together. This is your last run at something, man. This is your career, bro. Don't go out like this. Oh, it's hard watching this.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus...
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
Tonight is the Caleb Williams coronation in Detroit. In other words, it's the 2024 NFL Draft. Caleb Williams is minus 30,000. That's what the number is. It's so large sometimes it boggles the brain. He is minus 30,000 to be that first overall pick made by the Chicago Bears. Again, no guarantees, but that's as close as you will get. So Caleb will be that first overall pick And despite some conversation and some chatter over the last week about Jaden Daniels liking the Washington Commanders and vice versa, on draft day morning, he is a minus 950 favorite to go second overall. Drake May over a $3 favorite to be that third overall pick. And now the conversation goes to J.J. McCarthy. But before we get to McCarthy, who I consider, Donnie, to be the most pivotal piece of this 2024 NFL draft that can change everything that happens behind him, let's start at 1, 2, and 3. Do you think we see 3 quarterbacks to go off the board, 1, 2, and 3? And do you think in that exact order it is Williams, Daniels, May?
Yes, and it should be in that order. And by the way, if we don't get 3 quarterbacks off the board in the first 3, somebody's getting fired relatively quickly here, and hopefully within the next 24 hours. The reason why your franchise is bad is why you're drafting at the top. Now, the Chicago Bears, a little bit of a different outlook because technically that's not their pick, but they made an unbelievable move last year to get that number 1 pick. But again, you take a look at the Commanders. We can wait a year. No, you can't. You're going to draft a quarterback. And the Patriots, who need a quarterback worse than ever, are going to say no, we'll build and get draft picks for the future. You're not doing that here. It should be in that exact order that you stated here, Ben, because I do believe Daniels is too hard to pass up. Nobody's knocking Drake May and saying he can't be a great quarterback, a 5-time Pro Bowler, and get his team to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that here, but I just look at players that can transcend the game. And quite frankly, the hit or miss, even in the top 3 picks, is still so hard. We might look at him 4 years later, well, Daniels can't play, or Drake May, yeah, we knew his footwork was bad, and he played in Carolina. Didn't you see he's Sam Howell 0.2, even though that he's not actually the same player than Sam Howell, but still from that same structure coming from that offense. So for me and my money, it better be in that order with those quarterbacks, or else I don't know what these guys are watching film on.
Yeah, I think it is that order of quarterbacks. Caleb Williams first overall, Jaden Daniels second overall, Drake May at third overall. In fact, I bet that last week before I left for across the pond in New Jersey, because that's where we can get our draft odds, not here in New York. And I have Drake May at third overall at minus 140. Now, every quarterback class, there is one guy that sees their stock on the rise and their stock slide. Drake May has been that slider, despite the fact he's probably still going to end up at third overall. A lot of conversation about Drake May, which frankly I don't get. Yes, he in North Carolina left a little bit to be desired in terms of their overall success this past season. But Drake May, for the most part, outside of a really bad game against Clemson, put up sensational numbers. Jaden Daniels is a dual threat. So is Drake May, nearly 500 yards on the ground, 9 rushing scores a season ago. So now we start to use the odds to tell the tale of the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft, and not even just the first 32, the first 5. Jaden Daniels is a minus 6,000 favorite to be a top 5 pick. Drake May, minus 1,800. Marvin Harrison Jr. also minus 1,800, and the wide receiver out of Ohio State is a minus 450 favorite to be the 4th overall pick. Currently, the Cardinals hold on to that selection. There is one other player, DRS, in this 2024 NFL draft class that has an odds-on favored number to be a top 5 pick, and his name is J.J. McCarthy at minus 280, which would allow you then to believe that we will see 4 quarterbacks in the top 5, and we don't expect Arizona to take a quarterback. Could the Cardinals trade? Would the Chargers trade out of 5? Of course, they have Justin Herbert and JJ's former head coach, who absolutely adores him. Jim Harbaugh is in Los Angeles. Could he welcome in a team trading up for their face of the franchise in McCarthy? This is why when you use the odds and the conversation around JJ, I think he is the most pivotal piece, because who takes him and where? Right now, the Minnesota Vikings are the favored franchise to select JJ McCarthy, DRS, but they currently have the 11th overall pick. And if he's a minus 280 favorite to be a top 5 selection, he's not falling all the way to 11, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, you're going to have to move up here, no doubt about it. But also, you are talking about one of those guys that was the high riser of the draft, where we knew he was a good college quarterback and probably translated to the NFL, but that translated into a possible top 5 pick or top 15 pick, we didn't know. But everybody's loved his all-season workouts, get him in front of the chalkboard, and it makes sense. And over the past couple of days here, Ben, we had Boomer Esiason and Phil Simms on, and the questions come up here is, how do we evaluate J.J. McCarthy? Because if you just put him in a room, he's going to win you over. If you ask any of the teammates, and we quite frankly had a couple of his teammates on here here on the early line. They're like, man, like you run through a brick wall for this guy. He's the consummate winner. And it's also, he's not like a sixth-year senior through COVID where he's 25 years old coming in. He's a young guy, which means you're going to get maybe 15 years out of this guy. But the questions come up is, most of the times we look at quarterbacks coming through college, the Caleb Williams, like, did you see the numbers they put up? 4,500 passing yards, 45 touchdown passes. You don't get that from J.J. McCarthy. It's more measured like I play within the system that my coach gives us with the best chance to win. I can throw it a lot, but they didn't ask me to do that at Michigan. So the questions are, how does he translate into the NFL when, Ben, you can't throw for 150-yard games and try to win. That's what Justin Fields did in Chicago, and he's no longer playing for Chicago at this point. So that's the question.
It is such a fascinating conversation. I can't wait to hear from guys like Warren Sharp and Adam Kaplan tonight that know the National Football League a lot better than me. But I know the Big Ten, and I know Michigan, and I know J.J. McCarthy. As Donnie alluded to, he was not asked to win them games. It is not the way Sharon Moore organized his offense or what they asked J.J. McCarthy to do. Is he capable of it? We're not entirely sure, but you project the prospect out while evaluating the draft film, and they don't really add up in terms of J.J. McCarthy, top 5 pick. He was, however, 27-1 as a starting quarterback during his time at Michigan with a minimum of 25 starts in the last 50 years. That is the best win percentage of any QB in college football. It is fascinating and why I consider him the most pivotal piece of this 2024 NFL draft. We'll look at the other positions, a quarterback conversation in just a moment. Wideouts and what is going to be a big night for the Big Hog Mollies up front. A lot of O-linemen are going to the first round for the 2024 NFL draft. More conversation next.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. I'm taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to you the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Catch the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's
yes!
how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, what? Let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long-term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been here a couple of years and then go get the high-profile recruit and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Game Time had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad, bad, bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I admit, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
So, the over-under for quarterbacks taken tonight in the 2024 NFL Draft is 4.5, and the over has the hefty juice. At last check, I believe it was minus 330 to the over. So that would mean, if the odds are correct, 5 quarterbacks or more taken in the first round. The modern draft era in this 7-round format, in the way it has worked, this has been the structure since 1997. 3 times have we seen 5 quarterbacks go in the first round. 1999, way back in 2018, and in 2021. Could we see 5 tonight? The odds expected. So we talked about Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and J.J. McCarthy. So who is that 5th QB off the board? Is it Michael Penix Jr., or is it Bo Nix, or might it be both? How many quarterbacks, DRS, do we see in the first 32 picks of this opening round of the 2024 NFL Draft?
I genuinely think we get 6 off the board here. Now, typically, it's crazy to think that many, but usually we're not fighting for, oh, yeah, by the way, 1, 2, 3 is automatically going to be on a quarterback, and somebody's rising up the charts to probably get in the top 5. So that's 4 out of the way, which, again, still gives you a lot more picks, and the quarterback surge is going to be off. And we see it so many times. Forget about what round it is. Like, do you remember when it starts, Ben? It'll start every single time. Here's the run of tight ends. Here's the run of wide receivers. You got to get in while it's hot, and then it cools off. But the thing that we talk about quarterbacks and why it's so important is sometimes these quarterbacks might be a little bit more development is what they need. So he said, well, why would that make sense in the first round to do that? Well, as we know, if you're a first-round draft pick, there's an extra year tacked onto your contract, and that's very important for quarterbacks, where if they don't see the field for 2 or 3 years, at least you still have them under contract for 2 more years, and they can start, and then you can reevaluate them as opposed to just burning it and saying, let me just get the guy in the middle of the second round. Now, granted, that might, Donnie, what do you mean? You have a second-round grade on this guy, you're going to take him in the first round? I just told you why. Quarterbacks are a different breed here. You evaluate them differently and how long you can hold on to those quarterbacks. That's why I believe we're going to get 6, Ben, in round number 1.
We have never seen 6. It would be a record. I would be not all that surprised, especially when you look at Bo Nix. And there's been a lot of conversation about Michael Penix Jr. maybe going in the top 10. The Raiders are interested. The Giants, who draft 6th, are interested. Michael Penix Jr. could be that moving piece. Also, the team that is favored to take Bo Nix is the Denver Broncos at plus 175. Last week, it was a minus money price for Denver to select Nix. As we shared, the Broncos have the 12th overall pick. So maybe the Broncos do take him, but maybe it's not in the first round. Okay, they've got an early pick in the second round. Nope. The Broncos don't select again until the 3rd round. So if the Broncos are going to get Bo Nix, rational thought would be in the first round, even if they trade back, and that could be the 6th quarterback off the board tonight in Detroit. Now let's go wide receivers. Over-under prop for the wideout, 6.5, and the under has the hefty juice because of 2 guys out of Texas that really could move the market. I don't think we see 6. I'm not even sure we see 5, but I think we see 3 early and often, more than likely in the top 10. That would be Marvin Harrison Jr., minus 1,800 to be a top 5 pick, minus 450 to go 4th overall. Malik Neighbors, very likely in the top 5, if not 5, maybe 6 for the New York Giants. And Rome Odunze with a draft over-under position prop DRS at 8.5, the talented wideout out of Washington.
And by the way, we looked at this wide receiver market for a couple of months, and everybody tried to get you to buy into, Malik Neighbors probably the better over prospect than Marvin Harrison. I like him better. Stop the nonsense here. Just take a look at that market. Minus 1,800 to be a top 5 pick compared to Neighbors at a plus 155. Neighbors is an awesome wide receiver, but Marvin Harrison Jr. can be that game changer. And also, look at the offseason he had. Not very many people have a Hall of Fame father who was unbelievable on the football field in Marvin Harrison to learn from here. But also, did you see the approach of the offseason? Most guys are running around team to team to team to team to try to get as high as they can. Marvin Harrison, the father, goes, you're not doing that, son. You're not going to work out for anybody here. You're going to rest your body. You're already a professional. We're going to do workouts on our schedule here. We're not going to burn you out. And by the time you get to training camp, you are going to be like an NBA veteran. And also having the confidence to go, I know I'm the best here. Everybody knows I'm the best. Why am I meeting with you, having a steak dinner and running routes with a, 3rd string quarterback to see me catch the football? We're not doing that here. I love that mindset. And he's going to be a dominant professional and will be the first wide receiver off the board tonight.
We'll talk other positions again to start off hour 3. A hefty draft for the hefty guys up front in the offensive linemen. 9.5 is that draft position prop, and the over has the juice. I don't think 10 is nearly enough. But as you look at the running backs, unlike last year when Bijan Robinson went 8th overall and we saw Jahmyr Gibbs for Detroit go 12th overall, Jonathan Brooks is the favorite to be the first running back off the board out of Texas, but he's not going in the opening round on night number 1. Back to the NBA playoffs, up next on the early line.
people that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. Taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to you for the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Catch the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, what? Let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long-term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been there a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit, and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Game Time had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad, bad, bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I admit, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Thursday on the early line. It's Ben, it's Donnie, and it's the Coach JY here to round out this second hour, James Young. JY, glad to have you here on this Thursday to recap a wild night on a Wednesday in the NBA postseason with both of the one seeds in action out west. Oklahoma City looked like the top overall seed in that conference. In the Eastern Conference, what happened to the Boston Celtics? Heat culture reigns once again. But before we get into everything, JY, again, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Yes, some wild night in the NBA. And let's just say the prohibitive favorite to win the NBA championship kind of got picked off last night.
So we'll look at what it means for the rest of that opening round series between the top seed in the conference, Boston, against the shorthanded 8th seed in Miami without Jimmy Butler. But on a Wednesday night inside TD Garden, the Heat win outright by double digits, 111-101, as a 14.5-point underdog after making a franchise playoff record 23 threes. What was the recipe of success for Eric Spoelstra and the Heat last night?
Honestly, Ben, and I don't know if people are going to realize it, the recipe for success started in game one. Why? Down by over 30 points into the fourth quarter, what did Spo do? Instead of resting and sitting his guys, he let his guys play in the fourth quarter, right, Ben? And that allowed them to kind of leave game one on some kind of positive note. So when the line came out at 14.5, I thought that Miami was going to cover. Now, did I think they were going to win the game outright? No. But you saw that Heat culture bombing away. If you look at the first game, obviously even guys like Sam Hauser came off the bench. I think there were 21 for 41 of Boston in game number one if you take away Jason Tatum. So what did they do? They defended the three-point line better, even though Boston still shot it at 38%. But you're right, 23 of 43. And here's the thing, folks, that's amazing about this game. Usually road games, your role players don't play well, right? They got to be in their own gym, their own arena. But Jovic played well. Caleb Martin hit 5 threes, right? Hawkins was good again. So to me, it was the fact that Spoelstra really won game two, Ben, in the fourth quarter of game number one.
Adjustments to be made, which is why I love the playoff series. It's not back-to-back. It's not different teams. You know your opponent here. I thought Spoelstra was tremendous by saying the only way we're really going to beat the Celtics is let's take as many three-point shots as we can. If they go down, we got a chance. And they went down. So let's flip it over to game number 3 and the series now. We probably don't think, obviously, that the Boston Celtics are going to lose in round 1 to the Miami Heat coach. But what are now the adjustments after seeing 2 games that the Boston Celtics are going to make and also the Miami Heat? What's their game plan for game number 3?
Well, I think one recipe that they did, obviously, Miami, is they got into the space of the Boston players. They made guys like Tatum and Brown beat them off the bounce, but they also got into Porzingis. Porzingis was very comfortable from the three-point line. When they got into the post, they really disrupted him and disrupted their rhythm. Boston's got to have to find, guys, that third scorer, because just because you get combined 61 points from Tatum and Brown does not mean you're going to win the NBA playoffs. You need a third guy and sometimes a fourth guy. So for them, they got to get either Porzingis or Holiday to play better. The two of them combined to shoot 5 of 21, 1 of 8 from 3. For Miami, honestly, guys, it's rinse and repeat. You gotta make this game tough and rough and aggressive. That's where that Heat culture comes from. This is not a Spoelstra thing. This goes back to Pat Riley in his days with the Knicks in the 90s. They may not be the better team, but they're going to be more prepared. They're going to be better conditioned, and physically they're going to get after you. Miami's at a point now, folks, where, listen, I don't think Boston loses the series, but I would not be completely shocked if Miami stole one more game at home, got this thing 2-2, made it a best out of 3, and then if that happens, all bets are off.
So let's dive into the odds. Let's find a price that would make sense for how you see this series now playing out. Boston entered game number 2 not only as a 14.5-point home favorite inside TD Garden, where they have been utterly dominant this year, but also a minus 50,000 favorite, JY, to just win the series outright. And despite it being even at 1 game all in the stunner last night in Beantown, they're still minus 2,500 to win the series outright. I think there is value in Boston on the series spread to cover 2.5 games at a minus 110 price for the old gentleman sweep. But if you think Miami can make this rough and tough, give us your best bet for this opening round playoff series. Who wins and in how many games?
I'm going to go exact score, Boston 4-2 at plus 220 on FanDuel. I think there is going to be a split because I think here's the thing, guys, we're noticing, and no offense to the job that Joe Mazzulla has done, right? He's done a great job this year, obviously getting Charles Lee on his staff and also, with Sam Cassell. It's Spoelstra, guys, and if someone could steal a game or two, it's Spo. Ben, I like Boston 4-2 at plus 220. I think this goes 6 because I think you get a split in Miami, and then Boston finds a way to win the next 2.
No split here for OKC and New Orleans on their home court. OKC struggled in game number 1, but still picked up the victory. I mean, they struggle, still fine. It's the playoffs. Wins are good. There is no style points needed. But game number 2, you got some style points here, Coach. OKC 124, New Orleans 92. The starting lineup was fantastic for the Thunder. And as I was talking to Ben early in the show, the momentum and the highlights here and the locker room feeling that they can win an NBA championship might be growing every night for OKC here.
I'll tell you what, you want to talk about a team that came out and just punched the team in the mouth? That was OKC. And they're showing, guys, remarkable maturity for a team that's never been there, right? You figure after a 1-0 series lead that they would put their foot off the gas a little bit. Absolutely not. And then when New Orleans tried to make a run in the third quarter and got the game a little bit close within single digits after 3, they literally took the door and slammed it shut. That's a mark of a team that's starting to get it. And to me, what was key for me is Chet Holmgren hitting 3 threes in the first quarter. He came out and he set the tone. And they got going. And then what happened is obviously C.J. McCollum and Trey Murphy III, although they shot the ball better in the second half, they did not shoot the ball well to start the game. And it became a problem, and they were playing catch-up ball. This Oklahoma City team, guys, they are for real. They could score. But if they could defend, they have enough scores that they can give a lot of teams problems. I think maybe them being so young, we may have disrespected this team a little bit too much going into the playoffs.
First two playoff games for this young core in Oklahoma City. They win them both in OKC, but now a new test in a new venue in New Orleans against the Pels for game number 3 on Saturday afternoon. What is your outlook, JY, for how this series plays out between the Thunder and the Pelicans?
Well, to me, when you look at the series spread or how many games, I think this is going to go 5. I think they're going to get New Orleans is going to get one of these two. But I think they're going to get a split, and then Oklahoma City is going to close this out. To me, it's just, losing Zion just took so much out of this team, right? And I know they got that win to get the 8th seed, but they don't have that explosive guy that can really bad. If they want to win 2, they don't have that guy that can go get a dunk and really just bring that crowd into a frenzy. They don't have that. Yeah. So I think Oklahoma City will find a way to get a split here, which is what they want. They close out in 5 games. 5-game series plus 150 on FanDuel.
OKC right now a very slight 1-point favorite for game number 3 on Saturday in the Big Easy. Minus 118 on the money line, but now minus 3,000 for Oklahoma City to win this series outright and advance as the top seed in the conference to the Western Conference semifinals. So both of the 1 seeds in action last night. It rounds out the game 2s in the playoff series that we have in the association. Game 3s tonight, a triple header of game 3s. Triples are better. We will break down each and every game with a change in venue. Coming up next with JY, live right here on this Thursday on the Early Line.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. I'm taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to you the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Catch the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, well, let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long-term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been here a couple of years and then go get the high-profile recruit and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Game Time had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad, bad, bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
For the first time in this NBA playoffs, we changed venue tonight for a triple header of game number 3s around the association. And JY is here for a second consecutive segment to preview them all. Picks and breakdowns coming your way on this triple header Thursday night in the NBA. And JY, we start with the final game of the night in the Mile High City was where the first two games were between the Nuggets and the Lakers. Now we go to Los Angeles. For the first time inside Crypto.com Arena, the Lakers will host the reigning champs. And as of this moment, there is a 6-cent distinction in favor of the Lakers. Minus 112 money line, the price for LA, minus 106 on the other side for Denver. Let's start there. It's a must-win in Game 3 for Los Angeles, but is the right side favored at this moment?
No. Wait, what? I mean, listen, I know they want to give the Lakers respect, guys, and I know they want to look at the fact that they lost at the buzzer. And, you know, LeBron James can complain all he wants about the foul call that wasn't, you know, whatever on D'Lo. LeBron, you had a wide-open three, knocked the shot down. We don't even have to talk about what goes on at the end of the game. But, like, if I'm not mistaken, hasn't Denver won, like, the last 10 or 11 games? So, to me, no, I don't think the right team is favored. But there is a method to my madness, and everybody should know this by now on the network. When the Lakers play the Nuggets, I just take the Nuggets in the second half because the Lakers will always throw their punch early to try and play with the lead, and they will find a way to cough it up. Now, with this game being so tight of a spread, of it being basically even, I'm going to let the first half play out, and then I'm going to jump in live at the break. If it's close, I'm going to probably just take Denver to just win outright because until the Lakers show me that down the stretch, they're going to make the proper plays, or in the case of Darvin Ham, who did not adjust and hit, although he said he had holding off on adjustments to make defensemen to Nikola Jokic, the fact that 8 out of 9 possessions down the stretch of game number 2, Denver was able to score. That means I don't trust the Lakers in a big spot to get stops. I like Denver in the second half, but I'm going to play it live at halftime.
I love a good conspiracy theory, Coach, where the NBA loves LeBron James and need him to advance or at least have a long series. Where were our conspiracy theories last year in the playoffs when they actually got swept out? Where's the conspiracy theorists during the regular season where Denver won every game? Where's the conspiracy theorists that the refs would be on the side of the Lakers? Did you watch game number 2 in Denver here? It's certainly not. And I'm with Coach in this environment. If you're just saying to myself, it's a pick'em game, Lakers and Nuggets, I don't even need a handicap. Just give me the Nuggets. Now, as I say that, let's flip it over to the city of brotherly love. The Coach will be welcomed with open arms tonight at the Wells Fargo Arena. Keep in mind this. FanDuel opened up your Coach at a minus 2.5 point spread for the Sixers. We're now seeing minus 5s for the Philadelphia 76ers and a total at a paltry 203. You'll be in the building, Coach. What are we going to find out tonight between the Knicks and the Sixers?
Number one, everybody say a prayer to JY in his Knicks gear makes it out of the Wells Fargo Center tonight. Honestly. Because I will be a little raucous. But I will say this. I expect a crazed environment. I expect the best game out of Philadelphia. And listen, I'm a Knicks fan, and I'm a realist. Guys, the Knicks could conceivably, maybe should be down 0-2. Let's just call it what it is. You know, forget the calls. The fact that Philadelphia in long stretches has outplayed New York. And now you go on the road where the shots for the role players should not fall. I don't care that Dante DiVincenzo played at Villanova. I don't care that Josh Hart played at Villanova. And this is where they played at the Wells Fargo Center. I expect them to struggle tonight. You know what I don't expect to struggle? Joel Embiid. I think this is going to be a monumental performance. I am a Knicks fan. Ready for this, folks? I am a Knicks fan. I expect that the Sixers are going to win this game. And there's parts of me, guys, that the Knicks have an ugly game in them. With all of them not playing well, this could be it. Philadelphia's backs are against the wall. They've done a great job with Jalen Brunson. I may be ready for this. I may alt spread this game tonight. I think Philadelphia wins. I think they win by double digits.
Wow. This guy is just allowing his heart to feel better if the pocket feels heavier after betting on Philadelphia tonight, being in Philly and wearing his Knicks merchandise. Now, JY, I will ask you this, because when you look at the Knicks as of late, as an underdog, 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 as a dog, they have been at least a short favorite in each of the opening 2 games inside Madison Square Garden. 4 of those 5 covers, an outright victory. But Philly as a home favorite this year, one of the best in the association, 24-9 against the number. So let's say the odds are correct. Philly wins easily tonight. You might even cover your alt spread of 9.5 or whatever you end up wagering with the New York Knicks as a minus 500 favorite outright to win this opening round series. If Philly wins game 3 and it's a must-win, can't-lose type game for the 76ers. What does it do for the overall series in this opening round?
Oh, obviously, it moves the series. So if you like the Knicks to win this series, I'm going to wait out after tonight. Because I think if Philly wins impressively, and let's say Brunson struggles again in the third straight game, especially with having Kelly Oubre, and don't sleep, I do think DeAnthony Melton is up to questionable, so there's another guy that can defend Brunson. It's a little bit longer and more athletic than some of the other guards. I think that moves the price even more closer to, I don't know, maybe minus 300 or so, or maybe even less, particularly if the game is a blowout. So to me, I'm going to wait and let the game play out. Philadelphia wins if they win impressively. Then I may jump back on New York because I do think it could be 2-2 coming at us. I think this is going 6. I think the Knicks don't want to get it to 7. I think it's going to be 2-2 most likely. So if you want to wait a little bit longer, you can. If you want to roll the dice. But I think this is a 6-game series. But I do expect Philadelphia to win and to move the number dramatically, particularly if they play really, really good basketball.
JY, we'll get some more thoughts on the opening game of the triple-header tonight now in Orlando, but the Magic in an 0-2 hole, but a home favorite, laying 2.5. How significant is Orlando eking out a victory tonight against Cleveland?
They have to. They have to. And they've not looked particularly good, and they've been blown out in spots. So one thing to look at with this game between the Cavaliers and Orlando is if you are Jamal Mosley, you got to get off to a good start. Maybe what to look at, maybe Orlando Magic to win the first half. They got to play with confidence. More importantly, play with the lead.
Orlando, the best cover team in the NBA this year, 51-33 against the spread, but it has not been smooth sailing for the Magic to begin this postseason run. We'll talk about that total now north of 200 and some more NBA playoff thoughts with JY on the other side of the break.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year.
Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. I'm taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to you the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Catch the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, what? Let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long-term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been there a couple of years and then go get the high-profile recruit and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Game Time had 35 in the first half, Cam. And then, of course, he did not have another point the rest of the game.
Lillard's, it's playoff game time. This guy will show up. He will hit shots. Indiana, you better respond here because I'll tell you, that's a bad, bad, bad loss. We were wrong, Carver. Like, hey, I admit, I was on the Pelicans. This game, I lost.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
A triple header of Game 3s tonight around the association in the NBA playoffs. The opening game of 3 tonight is in Orlando with the Magic down 0-2 against Cleveland. Orlando was an underdog of at least 5 points in each of the 2 games in the land. They lost both and did not cover. But back at home, 17-6 against the number as a home favorite this year. The best cover percentage at north of 76% in the NBA all year long. But JY, my question to you about this game is now the total. The over-under that overnight was under 200 total points is now higher than that at 201. We have not seen a team in this series get to the century mark just yet. How much offense is expected tonight in Orlando?
Not much. I mean, if you want to talk about, listen, you line up me, Donnie, and Ben. We play a game of knockout with those teams. I like our chances. I'll bet on us to win that. So to me, you're not going to get a lot of guys that, one, can make shots, two, ready, can't create shots, particularly Orlando, because besides Banchero, who can go get a bucket? No one. So if you're Jamal Mosley, you have to lean on your defense. Your defense is one of the better defensive teams all year in the association. Neither team's gotten to 90, over 97 points. But if you look at even some of the games during the regular season, yeah, Cleveland had a 126-99 game, right? There's a 104-94 game. So these teams tend to struggle. And here's the thing, Ben, neither one of them really gets out of transition very well. This is a half-court game. Let people keep steaming this thing over. I'm going the other way. I think this goes under 200 points again.
We like extended series and extended basketball here, but quite frankly, if the Cavaliers in Orlando end in 4 games, I'm fine with it, and probably most of the nation is as well. But if we're taking a look at some of the other playoff series, Coach, let's take a look at this. Superstar players coming back into the fold. Now, other teams like the Clippers have already seen Kawhi Leonard come back, even though they lost that game. But the series I want to question you with here is the Pacers and the Bucks. Yesterday, when we were going over the show, we actually still had a slight favorite on the series price to the Milwaukee Bucks. Now we're checking in the Pacers, a minus 144 price to win the series over the Bucks, who are now a dog price at plus 118. When are we getting to see Giannis get back into the equation for the Bucks here?
I don't know, and I think that becomes the big question, and I think that's the thing that's going to make the market move when he decides to come back. Here's the thing, guys. Even when Giannis comes back, to me, this is all about, folks, Indiana. If Indiana can play their game, if Indiana can make this game a track meet, that is where you want to go. That's why when we talked, Donnie, a couple of days ago, I liked the game to go over because I think Indiana's got to get this game a transition because they're more athletic. They're better that way. People like Obi Toppin, whose points probably hang around 6.5. If they run, a guy like Obi should run over that number at 10 because he'll probably get 2 alley-oops right then and there. So to me, even if Giannis comes back, I'm not changing. If I'm Rick Carlisle, I run more. I want to see this guy get up and down the floor, and can he make it 35, 40 minutes? I still like Indiana to win this series, and Game 3, I still like the over. I think Indiana at home is going to want to push the pace.
Indiana, a 5-point favorite tomorrow night in the first of 3 more games in a triple header of NBA playoff action on Friday. Pacers team total 113.5. 94 in Game 1, they lost. 125 in Game 2, they won. A different way of looking at it. Now we also go to the other series that we have. We're even at 1-1. We head to Dallas tomorrow between the Mavericks and the Clippers. But, JY, I want to ask you about Minnesota and Phoenix. The Suns, a 4-point home favorite tomorrow night, of course, in a game that they cannot lose. Will then Phoenix win against Minnesota?
Honestly, I know this sounds crazy. I have a ticket for Phoenix to win the NBA Finals. I don't see it, guys. Phoenix looks old. It's like the team, they struck midnight. They turned to pumpkins. They got old really quick. I think the Grayson Allen injury thing is a bigger story than anybody wants to lead on because of the fact that this guy is the shooter, and Phoenix doesn't have enough guys that shoot the ball from 3. I like the way Minnesota's playing. And think about this. They won by 15+. Anthony Edwards was horrible. But the play of Jaden McDaniels doesn't get enough credit, what he's done coming as a 3-and-D guy. But don't sleep on the pride of Asbury Park. I got to give my guy his flowers. Reed, the pride of Asbury Park, 6th man of the year. He has been a difference maker too. I don't like it at all. I may go with Minnesota money line to win Game 3. I think this is bad news, Suns.
JY, enjoy the trip to Philadelphia. We hope to see you on the other side of the Wells Fargo Arena or Center tonight in game number 3. Hour 3 starts in just 2 minutes.